I used to believe that power and love could coexist, that a woman who built empires during the day could still come home and be someone's world by night. And for a while I thought I had both, until the night I saw the diamond. Emma is the CEO of Halvex Dynamics, a company so ambitious it felt like it could swallow the tech world whole. She was beautiful in that untouchable way, sharp jawline, sharper mind. She always kept her life tightly compartmentalized. Business meetings were business, dates were personal, her rules. I respected them until I became the fool who followed them blindly. That Thursday night, she asked me to dinner. Rare. Usually I was the one begging for her time between board meetings and flights to Singapore. She picked the restaurant Lucian's, a five-star jungle of chrome and chandeliers where the wine list came with a sommelier and a warning label. When she walked in, my breath caught. Her black dress clung to her like liquid silk, but it wasn't the dress that stopped me. It was the necklace. A V-cut diamond chain, delicate but loud enough to be noticed. The kind of piece that whispered of private vaults and whispered rendezvous. I'd never seen it before, and I would have remembered Emma didn't wear jewelry unless it was gifted by someone meaningful. "You like it?" she asked, catching me staring. "It's new." I kept my voice even. She sipped her drink, eyes not quite meeting mine. "A gift from the company, a token of appreciation, a company gift. Sure, Havex was stingy with holiday bonuses, let alone diamond necklaces. And even if they did splurge, Emma wasn't the type to accept such things. She was the company. But I didn't press it, not yet. We talked. Or rather, I talked, and she listened, detached, like her body was here but her mind was elsewhere. I told myself it was stress. End of quarter chaos. Executive things I didn't understand. Then her phone buzzed. One glance and her fingers tensed around the stem of her glass. She flipped the phone face down, but not before I caught the name. Daniel. I waited until the waiter poured our dessert wine. "How's Daniel?" I asked casually. Her smile faltered. "Same as always. Brilliant. Impatient. Why?" "Just curious. You two still working closely?" She nodded, a touch too quickly. "We always do." I raised my glass, but my stomach twisted. After dinner, she left in a separate car. No kiss goodbye, just a rushed peck on the cheek. Said she had an early call, but something about her scent lingered, like guilt mixed with Chanel. That night, I searched. I wish I could say I was better than that, but I needed truth, even if it burned. I pulled up Emma's calendar on the shared server she once let me sync to my own for date planning. Old habit never revoked. There it was, a blocked-off window during our anniversary last week. Location, the Grand Regent Hotel. Guest access logged in under D. Calloway. I felt my stomach drop. I called her the next morning. She didn't answer. When I saw her later that week at her penthouse, dressed in a bathrobe and sipping espresso like nothing had cracked, I knew. She looked different, lighter, as if confessing to the affair had already happened in her head and she was just waiting for me to catch up. I didn't shout, didn't accuse. I simply asked, "Was it him?" Silence. And then, softly, "Yes." The diamond necklace was still around her neck. She didn't even have the decency to take it off. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered, tears forming, voice shaking. "It was a mistake." I laughed. Bitter. Cold. A mistake doesn't come in a velvet box. She reached for me, and I stepped back. The necklace caught the morning light and scattered it across the walls. Funny how something so beautiful could come from something so ugly. We met during our junior year at Kingsley University, both of us too tired from all-night coding sessions and too broke to buy decent coffee. She was wearing a hoodie 3 sizes too big and had her hair pulled back in one of those messy buns that looked accidental, but somehow made her even more beautiful. She sat next to me in advanced algorithmic systems. I remember because I had a busted laptop that kept restarting every 10 minutes. And Emma leaned over during one of its meltdowns and whispered, "Want to borrow mine, or should we just both fail together?" I liked her from the start. She was sharp, could tear through logic trees like a buzzsaw, but she didn't flaunt it. There was something grounded about her then. We'd joke about starting our own company. Dreamers, idealists. She wanted to build something that mattered. I just wanted to build something people could use without needing a manual. Late nights turned into longer walks, problem sets turned into takeout dinners. We'd stretch across her tiny studio apartment, whiteboards and post-its everywhere, dreaming big. She used to say things like, "We'll change the world, you and me." And I believed her. We got internships at Halvex when it was still a startup in a warehouse with broken heat. Daniel was already there. He was the charming one, confident, ruthless when he needed to be, but magnetic in a way I'd never be. I used to joke he was the wolf, and I was the dog who knew how to sit and stay. Emma rose fast, too fast. Within a year, she was running project teams. Daniel leaned on her more and more. I stayed in the background where I was comfortable, writing code, fixing bugs, building things no one saw. She used to pull me aside when the stress got to her. We'd sneak up to the roof with vending machine snacks, and she'd lay her head on my shoulder. "Promise me," she once said, "no matter how far I go, I don't lose this, you and me." I promised. I sat on the edge of my bed, the soft hum of the city bleeding in through the half-open window. My apartment was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't comfort you but reminds you you're alone. I hadn't slept. The wine from dinner still lingered on my tongue like regret. On my desk sat a worn photo frame. I hadn't looked at it in months. I reached for it. It was us, me and Emma, back when we still smiled with our whole faces. We were in front of the Halvex warehouse, both wearing oversized hoodies and name tags from our intern days. Her arm was draped around my neck, her hand flashing a peace sign. I looked like a kid who just got picked first for the team. I ran my thumb across her face, then mine. We looked happy. I used to think we were building something real, not just code and product launches, but a life. Brick by brick. I remember the late nights, the cheap ramen, the way her laughter filled a room before she ever walked into it. I remember believing in her, in us. But somewhere along the way, that version of Emma, my Emma, got buried beneath a polished shell of glass offices, stock options, and executive decisions. Somewhere, Daniel's name started showing up more than mine. Somewhere, she stopped turning to me for the little things. I stared at the picture a little longer before turning the frame face down on the desk. It was just a necklace, just a stupid, brilliant cut diamond that said more than words ever could. She lied to me, not just about the gift, but about what we still were. A mistake, she'd call it later, a slip. But I'd loved her when she was broke and hungry and full of fire, and she'd replaced me with someone who gave her diamonds. I stood, grabbed my keys. It was time to ask the question I already knew the answer to. Her penthouse smelled like bergamot and regret. Emma opened the door wearing silk pajamas and an expression so carefully neutral I knew she'd been rehearsing it. Behind her, the skyline glittered, all glass and ambition, just like her. "Ryan," she said, voice flat, "it's late." I stepped inside without asking. "You lied to me." She shut the door slowly, almost like she was afraid it might slam. "About what?" I turned to face her. "The necklace." Her hand instinctively moved to her collarbone. The diamond still rested there, like a silent confession. She didn't speak. "It wasn't from the company," I said. "It wasn't a gift from some generic board or shareholder appreciation nonsense. It was from him." She looked down, and that silence was all the confirmation I needed. "How long?" I asked. Emma's lips parted, but nothing came out. "Don't make me drag it out, Emma. Just tell me the truth for once." She took a shaky breath. "It wasn't supposed to happen. It was one night." I clenched my jaw. One night doesn't come with diamonds. She stepped forward, cautiously, as if her proximity could soften the damage. "Ryan, I didn't plan this. We were working late. It was after the Hong Kong acquisition. We were both drunk. It just happened." "No," I snapped. "Tripping over a chair happens. Sleeping with Daniel doesn't just happen." Her face cracked then, just a flicker, like a mask slipping. "I know I hurt you." "You didn't hurt me, Emma. You broke something I didn't think could be broken." She sat down on the arm of the couch, shoulders sagging. "I didn't think of him like that until I did, and once I crossed that line, I couldn't uncross it." "And me," I said. "Where did I go in all that?" "You were always there," she whispered. "No," I said. "I was just the one who didn't fit anymore, the relic from the past, your reminder of who you used to be." Her eyes welled up, but I didn't care. I looked around her apartment, white walls, glass decor, an empire built on performance. Nothing of us lived here, not anymore. "I loved you when you had nothing," I said, "and now that you have everything, you gave the most important part of you to someone else." Emma didn't try to stop me as I walked to the door, but just before I opened it, she said, "You were the only thing that ever felt real." I paused, turned slightly. "So why did you treat me like I wasn't?" Silence. I left without waiting for an answer. The office looked different that morning, quieter, colder. Maybe it was just me. I walked through the glass doors of Halvex for the last time, past the same security guard who used to nod with a grin and say, "Early again, Ryan?" Today he didn't even look up from his clipboard. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt like a funeral procession. The same floor I once helped wire the servers for. The same floor where Emma's office now overlooked the whole city like a throne room. My resignation letter was simple. No fanfare, no drama. Just a formal goodbye, effective immediately. I dropped it on the desk of HR and headed back to clear out my things. My cubicle was still cluttered. Whiteboards full of half-solved problems, a potted plant that had somehow survived 3 vacations, a photo of me and Emma from the company's 2nd year, her in a blazer 2 sizes too big, me in a wrinkled dress shirt we thought was fancy. I threw the photo in the trash. I didn't expect Emma to come down. But part of me hoped she would. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I heard heels in the hallway, sharp, confident, measured. My breath caught in my throat, but it was just the new director of marketing walking past. I packed the last of my things into a cardboard box. My badge, the company-issued laptop, a few books. I looked around one last time. This was the place where we dreamed, where we pulled all-nighters, built prototypes, cheered for each other's wins. This was the company I believed in because she believed in it. But now it felt like hollow glass and whispers. I took the back elevator to avoid seeing anyone else. As the doors closed, I glanced up at the security camera, wondered if she was watching, wondered if she even cared. When I reached the lobby, the receptionist handed me an envelope. My name was scrawled in her handwriting. No return address, no signature, just one line. "You were always the better part of me. I just didn't know how to hold on to you." I folded the note, tucked it into my jacket pocket, and walked out. She didn't chase me. She didn't stop me. And maybe that was the answer I'd been waiting for. I never heard from Emma again. No calls, no emails, no accidental run-ins at the coffee shop we once claimed as ours. She vanished from my life with surgical precision, like I'd been cut out of her story with the same ruthlessness she once applied to failing projects. For a while, I thought about leaving the city. I'd look up cheap flights in the middle of the night, dream about someplace quieter, somewhere my memories couldn't follow. But I stayed. Not out of pride, not out of hope, just inertia. The days bled into each other. I freelanced for a bit, debugging back-end systems for apps that promised connection but felt lonelier than silence. I worked from home, lived off cold brew and insomnia, and tried not to check Halvex's press releases. Tried harder not to look for her name. Then one morning, as I sat in my kitchen nursing burnt toast and a headache, my phone rang. Unknown number. I nearly let it go to voicemail. Something made me pick up. "Ryan Smith?" the voice asked, rich with age and familiarity. "Speaking." "This is Professor Hargrove. You remember me from Kingsley University?" I sat up straighter. "Yeah, of course. Advanced systems theory. You once rewrote my entire scheduling algorithm over winter break." "You said my solution was overkill," I said, smiling for the first time in days. It was. Brilliantly overkill. We talked for 20 minutes, and for the first time in months, I felt seen, not as a failure or a footnote in someone else's empire, but as someone with potential. He was working with a think tank spun off from MIT, mentoring student-led startups, helping young engineers turn their prototypes into companies. One group had just lost a technical lead. Hargrove thought of me. "It's not glamorous," he warned, "and the funding's barely real. But it's a start. You need a start." And that's how it began. 3 weeks later, I found myself in a cramped shared workspace above a bakery that smelled like hope and burnt sugar. Our company, tentatively named Blue Sentinel, was building adaptive encryption layers for healthcare systems. Sexy, I know, but it mattered. It could save lives. And for once, I wasn't coding in someone else's shadow. I didn't think about Emma much during those first few months. Or maybe I did, in flashes, when I stayed late and remembered the warmth of her falling asleep on my shoulder. Or when I walked past sleek buildings downtown and caught my reflection looking older than I felt. But I buried those thoughts beneath lines of code and project sprints. Pain makes a good foundation if you know how to build with it. We hit our first breakthrough in February. Hospitals in the Midwest picked up our pilot. Suddenly, venture capitalists started returning emails. We weren't just a garage team anymore. We were a company with a heartbeat. At our 6-month mark, I stood in a cheap suit in front of investors, pitching our platform with a confidence I didn't know I still had. And afterward, Hargrove pulled me aside and said, "You've got it now. The fire, the hunger." "I lost everything to get here," I replied. He nodded. "Good. That means you've got nothing left to lose." We signed our first major contract that spring. Real funding. Real hires. We moved into a better office, one with heating and doors that didn't creak like ghost stories. I bought a proper desk chair, got a haircut that didn't make me look like I'd just crawled out of a server room. I even started separating my laundry. Havex kept growing, of course. I saw the headlines. Emma's name appeared next to phrases like IPO readiness and tech visionary. Sometimes I'd see a photo of her at some conference, poised, perfect, a diamond still sometimes glinting at her throat, but she never reached out, and I stopped expecting her to. Blue Sentinel started showing up in the same circles. Quiet at first, but growing. We weren't just building software, we were building trust. Hospitals, schools, even small government agencies started calling. Our pitch wasn't glossy, but it was honest, secure, real. One night after signing our biggest deal yet, I stood in our new office and looked out at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Emma was probably standing in front of her own wall of glass, looking down at the same city. I wondered if she ever thought about me, if she ever looked back and saw the fork in the road where we both broke and began again. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't forgive her either. But I had rebuilt myself from the ashes she left behind. Stronger, sharper, whole. The past would always live in me, but it didn't own me. Not anymore. The conference hall buzzed with the usual mix of sharp suits, eager startups, and tech giants flexing their latest breakthroughs. It was the kind of place where futures were bought and sold over lukewarm coffee and awkward networking. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not really. Blue Sentinel had sent a junior lead to represent us. But when the invitation arrived with Emma's name on the guest list, something stubborn inside me insisted I go. I stepped into the main hall, scanning the crowd. Screens flashed logos, speeches echoed, and somewhere in the noise, the past awaited me. Then I saw her, Emma. She stood by the main stage, the same composed, unshakable figure who once ruled Halvex like a queen. Her hair was pulled back in that perfect, effortless bun. The diamond necklace was gone, but the way she held herself said she still wore armor made of glass and steel. Our eyes locked for a moment, two worlds crashing softly together in the middle of a room packed with strangers. She approached, smile polite but unreadable. "Ryan," she said, voice steady. "Emma," I nodded. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Likewise, I heard Blue Sentinel's making waves. Congratulations." "Thanks, we're growing." She glanced at my badge, recognition flickering. "I always knew you had it in you," I shrugged, feeling a strange mix of pride and old ache. "Guess we both took different paths." "Yeah," she said, eyes drifting to the stage, "different paths." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The noise around us swelled, but we were locked in a quiet bubble of what once was and what could never be again. "Do you want to grab a coffee?" I asked impulsively. Emma hesitated, then shook her head. "Not here. Maybe another time." "Sure." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. As she turned away, I caught a final glimpse, her eyes softer than I remembered, maybe even a little sad. The past didn't haunt me anymore, but it still had a voice, and it wasn't done speaking. The conference room was colder than I remembered. The long, polished table gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights. A dozen faces stared at me, some skeptical, some desperate, all expecting answers I wasn't sure I wanted to give. I stood at the head of the table, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice." Emma sat off to the side, her posture rigid, eyes sharp. She looked nothing like the woman who used to sneak snacks up to the roof with me. She was steel now, commanding, distant. But I saw the flicker of something beneath the surface. Defiance, fear, maybe even regret. I clicked the remote, and the screen lit up with slides, numbers, projections, strategies. Halvex is at a crossroads. The market has shifted, and so have the demands of our clients and investors. We've seen a decline in revenue and trust, but I believe this can change. All eyes on me. I took a breath. Blue Sentinel has developed a new AI platform that complements Halvex's existing technologies. Our growth this past year has been exponential. That momentum, combined with Halvex's infrastructure and market presence, creates a powerful synergy. The murmurs started. Emma's jaw tightened. She didn't speak, but I knew what she was thinking. He's the outsider, the kid who left and came back like a storm. I pressed on. I'm proposing a merger. Blue Sentinel will acquire Halvex Dynamics. I will take the role of CEO of the new company. Emma will retain an executive position overseeing product innovation. The room went silent. I saw the flicker of betrayal flash in Emma's eyes. The board members shifted in their seats, some shocked, some calculating. One of the older board members cleared his throat. Ryan, this is a bold move. Emma has built Halvex from the ground up. How can we be sure this won't backfire? I met his gaze. Because I was there at the start. I know this company inside out, and I know what it needs now is new leadership with a vision unclouded by past failures. Emma finally spoke, voice low but fierce. You think taking control will fix everything? You don't understand what it means to build something from nothing and then watch it crumble. I stepped closer. I understand exactly what it means. I've built something too, and sometimes the hardest thing to do is admit when what you built needs saving or replacing. Her eyes flashed, but she said nothing more. The board exchanged looks. After a long pause, the chairwoman nodded slowly. We'll put the proposal to a vote. I suggest you prepare for due diligence immediately, Ryan. As the meeting adjourned, Emma stayed behind. I caught her gaze, no words, just the cold recognition that the tides had turned. For the first time in years, I wasn't just Emma's forgotten coder. I was the one holding the reins. And this time, I wasn't letting go. The hum of the office was the usual background noise, keyboards clicking, muted phone calls, the soft buzz of fluorescent lights. But beneath the surface, whispers moved faster than the data streams I built. I caught the first hint near the coffee machine, a casual comment, tossed like a stone into still water. Did you hear? Daniel dumped Emma. I froze, my hand halfway to my cup. The words hit harder than I expected. Daniel Calloway, the shadow hanging over my last relationship with Emma, had finally cut her loose. At first, I didn't want to believe it. Maybe it was just another rumor, the kind that circulates when things are tense. But then I heard it again. From the marketing team, from the HR office, even from Emma's own executive assistant, a hushed confirmation over a whispered phone call. It was true. Emma was alone. The news stirred something I hadn't expected, a mix of pity, vindication, and a strange kind of relief. She was no longer tied to that toxic bond, but the fact she was left standing there, vulnerable, reopened wounds I thought had started to heal. I watched her carefully in meetings, behind the poised exterior. There was a new edge of fragility I'd never seen before, a flicker of loss beneath the armor. The office grapevine didn't just deliver gossip. It rewrote the landscape. Daniel's departure shifted the power dynamics subtly but unmistakably. Emma's grip on her world loosened, and for the first time since the merger, I sensed an opportunity and a reckoning on the horizon. I saw her alone in the lounge area, nursing a coffee like she was trying to drown a storm. The usual sharpness in her eyes was softened, clouded with something I hadn't seen before, hurt. I hesitated, then walked over. My footsteps felt louder than I wanted, like they were announcing my arrival to a quiet war zone. Emma, I said softly. She looked up, startled for a moment, then masked it with a polite nod. Ryan. I perched on the edge of the nearby couch, careful not to invade her space but close enough to be real. I heard. She blinked, eyes narrowing slightly. He left. Yeah, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. I'm sorry. She shook her head, bitter. Sorry doesn't cover it. It's more than that. Daniel was everything, more than just a partner. He was complicated. I nodded, voice cold now. Complicated enough to dump you when things got tough. Funny how that works. There was a silence between us, thick with all the words we didn't say. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and something in her cracked. I thought I lost you, twice now. Her voice cracked, raw. first to the company, then to him. I leaned in slightly, eyes sharp. You didn't lose me, Emma. I walked away, but you? You got pushed out, replaced, forgotten. She laughed, but it was hollow, like a ghost of the woman she used to be. Walked away or pushed out? She challenged weakly. I let the words hang heavy between us. Look around, Emma. Who's sitting where you used to? Who's running this show now? I didn't just walk away, I came back stronger. You were left holding diamonds that didn't buy loyalty. Her eyes flickered with something, regret, maybe shame, or the cold sting of truth. I hope it's worth it, I said quietly, standing up. Because power isn't just about what you build, it's about who stays when everything falls apart. Without waiting for a response, I walked away. The echo of my footsteps was the only answer she got.